So, welcome back, everyone, for another week of Great Beards of Westeros. We're on episode 6, and like we said last week, we're probably the most surprised of all that this thing is still running. But
No, I was more surprised.
You're more surprised, okay. We owe that to the quality of the guests that we have on. Surely, we'll discuss our humility as Swedes later on. Today, we're really honored to have the great Alex Hynes. You might know him from some other podcast. I don't remember what it's called. He's going to have to introduce himself properly. But you might know him from the Rules Reference Guide with Game. You might know him from popular sayings as, "Can we get a ruling on this, Alex?" Ping Alex Hynes, things like that. He's also a very accomplished player, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about that and share a bit of his insight and his something that he can share to the rest of the community that will improve us all as players, I think. It's good to be on. I'm Samuel, and with me is our regular cast. We have Jakob Hultman.
Yo.
And we have Andreas Aldin. Halloy. You might know him as Buzz. You might know him as French champion, among other things. So, Alex, I tried to make a short introduction. Do you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Unsurprising, I think, probably to most of you. I started having success in Thrones around the same time as I started growing facial hair. This came around the same time, and I attended my first world championship with this goatee, which has not changed much since then, in 2012. And, you know, the goatee hasn't changed much, but that starting point was sufficient to gradually get me improving. So the beard didn't improve, but the beard was the starting point, I think. And then in 2014, I actually won an overall title, which is really, really good. And now I think to do better, I have to grow a better beard. In fact, as soon as I came on this cast and we were testing the recording, the first thing they asked me to do was to turn down the lights so they can't see me as well. I think this is not the best beard you've had on a guest in the cast, and I understand that. That must be very, very painful to you.
Yeah, this is part, I think, of a process on this cast to try to include even, I wouldn't say lesser beards, but beards of different shapes and forms, but that have still achieved some measure of success. And I think you're a great testament to that. And I understand completely how you made yourself the connection between the beard and the success. And you don't want to change a winning formula too much, right?
Well, it could certainly improve. The game has gotten bigger. There are more players. To rise to the top, I need new tools. And I think I'm coming to the right place to get the best tools.
You definitely come to the right place. And we talked a bit pre-recording here about Jakob and his lack of success in 2.0, where he kind of he peaked sort of in Worlds, but now he's improving his beard, so he's focusing on that. He doesn't need to improve his. Well, he obviously needs to improve his gameplay in 2.0, but
priorities.
There are priorities, absolutely, and I think sometimes you have to step back for family reasons, and sometimes you have to step back for beard reasons. I think Jakob is finding that the hard way.
And there's a saying as well, like with the great beard comes a great responsibility. So
I'm not good with responsibility. I have trouble with responsibility. I have trouble taking things seriously, even something as critical as beards. A lot of your guests have been on. They've kept a very straight face talking about these somber and serious topics, and I'm not entirely certain I'll be able to do that. Beards are no laughing matter. I think you'll all agree, but
we'll be here for you, Alex.
Laugh.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll be here as a crying shoulder.
This is a safe zone. Definitely.
There I go.
We have a topic this week, and it's
I think we have an intro first, don't we?
Don't we? Oh,
We have a great intro.
You can't skip ahead, Buzz. You can't skip ahead.
I don't have an intro for my video. I'll have
This
to
is
make
this is my favorite part of the cast. Don't skip the intro.
Especially when we're recording and we can't hear the intro.
You have to listen to it inside your heads. Okay, so this is the intro. Now, Buzz, you can move on to the next.
All right. So we have a topic of the week. It's a topic that I feel very strongly about. It's table talk, both in Joust, but more importantly in Melee. So, Alex, how can you hide your Melee skills behind a beard, and what's the key to success in Melee?
Hiding the melee skills behind a beard, that's an interesting one, because certainly one of the things people say about melee is as you rise to prominence and people know who you are, they know you're a threat, and so they'll take you more seriously at the table, and it changes the way the game plays out. I feel like, and you guys may call me crazy, that having a beard does the same thing. If you sit down at a table and someone has a great beard, you know they're going to be a threat. It's not even hiding it. I think it's actually a drawback. It's showing that you're not to be trifled with. And I think that in that way, you're sort of losing that ability to be underestimated.
I think you're onto something there, because I know personally when we traveled to Stalek, for example, and last year, I know that Andreas Riebeck, who took down Stalek Melee last year, he shaved before, and that is kind of like meta playing, because we knew that if he would have had a beard, it would have been very intimidating at his tables. But since he shaved, he kind of, just like putting on a fake beard could be intimidating, shaving can take off the warning signs for your opponents. So
the basic rule of melee is you don't want to look like you're in first place, right? You don't want to be on 13 power on that next turn unless you can close, because then you become the power bank. And I think if you have the first place beard, I think it is actually a disadvantage in melee, much though it is an advantage in Joust.
But
Yeah, I can definitely agree to that statement. I mean, most of you people know me, apart from being a host of this great podcast. You know me as first seed in the Melee Swiss in Starlight last year.
humble brag.
And
that took you far.
that took me far. And obviously I was blown out of the water when I reached the top 16, and the competition got really fierce, where my table immediately identified me as probably the greatest threat because of my beard. So that's, it could be an advantage because of the intimidating factor, but it also really paints you as the threat,
But
the person to target.
Alex talked about how it changes how you play the game, right? I think that it can be an advantage if you let it be. You just fall back, trust your beard, and everyone will look to you when there is when people are unsure about things. They can look to you and they will trust you. They will know you cannot win. They will know that that guy over there, he's the threat. He has a surgeon of might in hand.
I wonder if there might be a sweet spot here in between where you have enough of a beard that people will respect you as a force at the table, but not too much so as to be a target. If you had a goatee, for instance, maybe there's a certain advantage there. We can draw inspiration from the books as well, where one of the great melee players in the books, the one who's manipulating everyone, is Littlefinger, and he does not have a full beard.
Mm-hmm.
Except in the version that you spoiled from last week. But most of the time, he doesn't have a full beard.
I wonder if there's, just spinning off of that thought, is there a way to start off a melee table without a beard? And by the end of it, have a beard?
That would be epic. I think you would be unstoppable. You would be underestimated, but you would pull out the beard in time to win. I mean, the time restrictions for a melee match of an hour and a half put a real clock on that. But if there's someone who can really pull that off with a real beard, I think a fake beard might help. I think 2 rounds in, pulling out a fake beard, it'll help. But if two rounds in, you've grown a real beard. I think you win Stalik. I think that's how it happens.
But if you don't have a beard, and you cannot really grow a really respectful one, and there are no fake beards around, is there some artifact you can bring with you that will help you in your quest?
Well, what are the great? I think I know what you're pointing at. This one of the great aspects of having a beard is that you will either command respect or awe or intimidation, and all of which can be useful at a melee table. And we can think of, Tywin has his mutton chops, and he's a very commanding presence, and Robert has his beard, and he's very intimidating. And I think the quote in the books is, Robert had his beard and his warhammer. I think that's really what drove him home to victory. And so, if I were to shave this goatee, which I think is in the sweet spot, I would have to bring this along. There's no doubt about it. I think you need that commanding presence. You need something to see you through, so that people will take you seriously.
Oh, that's true. And obviously that's when you see people with really big beards at the melee table. One of the reasons they have grown that big beard might be their lack of warhammers, for example. If you don't have a warhammer, you need a good beard, a really good beard. But a good warhammer might sort of help balance that out.
Did Robert have a great beard because he had a warhammer, or a great warhammer because he had a great beard?
Well,
chicken and egg.
I was going to say
it's a difficult situation.
It's very difficult. I think
it's going to be a restless night for me.
Yeah, I read in probably not in the main books, but I think in the World of Ice and Fire that there was a big meeting in Old Town where the maesters were discussing that very question: what came first, the Great Beard or the Great Warhammer? I don't think they came to an unanimous conclusion. But it's a very good topic. We could probably do like a big roundtable talk about that. A big 3-hour special episode of Great Beards of Westeros.
But we're all agreed, at least, that there's a link.
It is.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, for sure.
There are certain artifacts of power that can imbue someone with beard-like properties.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alex, just to push a little bit back to the melee, a renowned and well-known guy like yourself, not because you've won titles and because of your goatee and your warhammer, but also because you run a podcast. You run a statistics network, so to speak, where people put all of their results in. You're also the rules reference guy. We know you from everything. How do you, when you sit down at a table for, let's say, 4 players in a tournament like Worlds or Gen Con for that matter, how do you keep your skills secret when, as soon as you sit down at the table, they know you, but you don't know them?
I think the real answer there is that you build a deck that does well when other people are also doing well. That's, a lot of the table talk and all that stuff, you're trying to make cases for mutual advantage. You're trying to say, look, I'll give you this thing that is good for you, and you give me this thing that seems less good for me but is still good for me. And you try and make it so things are in people's best interests, and that's how you wind up winning. Even when I'm at a table with other people that are very well known, one particular example, John Bruno and Corey Faraday were at the same table with me, and everybody knows that everyone's a threat, but the way that you win that table is by ensuring that they can't act against your interests. John Bruno could not lose his Mad King with 5 power on it, and I had power stealing tech in my deck. So even though other people are doing well, you have a way to use that to your advantage, to make that big swing when other people start to take that. And I think you always need to allow people to play for their best interests, convince them that they're playing for their best interests, and then use that to your advantage. Give them good advice. Tell them it is right to make the military challenge against me, and I'll lose some chud I don't care about because it's the smartest decision for them, and then be able to exploit that.
So you're basically saying your table talking them into understanding that you are currently not the threat, and then you just push for the win whenever the time comes with your skills.
That, yes, and I also, don't want to appear unreasonable and say, oh, don't make this military challenge against me, make it against someone else for bad reasons. Every time you make that case for bad reasons, you're weakening your position. But when you say, okay, do make that military challenge against me, that actually does make the most sense for you, then you've gained credibility within that match and respect within that match, and eventually intimidation within that match. So I think it's important that table talk is two-sided and that you're always playing to what looks like their best advantage. And then it can't hurt you to be seen to be playing for your own position at that point. You're like, well, look, this helps you more than it helps me. And you do that enough, eventually you win.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's really good advice. I've learned something. I'm definitely implementing them in next year's, this year's Stalek. Maybe I can actually push through the cut this time.
In last year's Stalek, what percentage of the final table had beards?
25?
Had 20, was 25%?
Were you the only beard?
It means
this
if you're it actually depends on if you see James Walmsley's mustache as a beard.
Yes.
And also Jonas had his Movember beard, right?
Oh, he did?
I think so.
I think he was bearded last year. Was it? Yeah.
So very much a top tier table, and I guess Andreas, having shaven, was the underdog, the one that nobody took.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You're up to something here. I feel that my facial hair is currently threatened, and I need to come up with a yearly plan here for how I'm going to save it until Stalek and still manage to win.
We all know there's such a thing as a fake beard. Is there such a thing as a fake non-beard? Something that you put above your beard to hide it so that you can then reveal it at the appropriate time?
We have spoken about that for the Man's Raider, which came out for 2nd edition.
The beard within a beard. That's right.
Yep.
The Inception beard. Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that it's an Inception beard.
Yeah.
So I feel like
some kind of glamour.
Some
Beard
kind of
glamour. Yeah.
Glamour of fire.
But I think that's our solution. We were saying if you can start the match without a beard and have a beard by the end of the match, and that's a real beard. What you had was a fake not beard, which is fine. Everybody can agree that a fake not beard is fine. I think you may be onto something there.
So now I just need to practice how the whole reveal of my actual beard is going to be mid-game.
I think the best way is if nobody's looking, and then you remove the fake beard, and everybody looks back, and suddenly it's there.
There's just another person sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Wow, we should have taken this person seriously all along.
Fake twin.
It's too bad. It's too bad there are no pre-plot action window in 2.0. Otherwise, you could have done it in the pre-plot action window.
We should really have a hard word with whoever decided that was a good idea. I'll make a note in my...
Please do.
Please someone bring back without his beard so you can actually play that.
That's the kind of thing Nate would do.
That is probably true.
Yeah.
We were speaking of artifacts. And this next topic, Beard of the Week, is a real artifact, I think. Alex, can you tell us what's the Beard of the Week?
So I thought that given that last week a lot of the talk was about the Wolves of the North box, I would look for a Beard of the Week within the Calm Over Westeros pack and see if there was something that really jumped out at me there. And, there are many beards. Nightmares has a beard. All of these are very decent beards, but I felt like the one that really spoke to me was Winterfell Crypt. And it's not just because Robert and Eddard both have beards. It's because there is a stone carving of a man with a beard, and I think it is everyone's dream to have their beard immortalized. If you think of the great busts of Socrates, there's always a beard. If you think of these great classical statues, it's the beard that you remember. I mean, aside from David, and he's an exception, those are the ones that you really remember. And I think Winterfell Crypt is a crypt full of beards that have been immortalized for all time. I think this is important, and it's what we really all dream of.
Oh, it definitely is. It's a great beard, and like you say, having your beard immortalized, it's probably what all of us dream about. And maybe, I mean, we know FFG is improving their organized play. Maybe that could be one of the grand prizes. I don't know, in Worlds 2019, perhaps get your beard
carved into stone, or
into stone. Yeah,
we already have something similar, right? We get to immortalize our beards if we win in art form. Right, a champ card design, you get to immortalize that beard, and I very much look forward to yours, Jakob. I think this will be very exciting. I hope Andreas does his beard versus his non-beard, or he doesn't get one for the melee that last year, does he? Dang.
Rub it in.
I know.
Do we get a card saying 2015 People's Champ?
But I think, so I think, we do get to immortalize that. I am looking forward to immortalize my goatee. Jakob, I'm sure, will be able to immortalize his beard. But I think one-step art from artwork by a great artist like Michael Colmack, who did this art, would be in statue form. And I think the Starks had it right all along.
Mm. It's truly the way to honor your predecessors, is by immortalizing their beards in a way that future generations can look upon in awe, look upon for inspiration, look for guidance. I mean, I can imagine the innumerable times that that Ned has been down here. He's taken his kids down, pointed out the variety of beards, the different maybe trends. Because his father, his grandfather, his all the way back to Bran the Builder, and way back in the day, to see the great beards, and to see how I remember from the book you could read the descriptions of how the facial features have started to, because of time and humidity and things like that, start to wither away. But I imagine the beards are still intact. That's how I picture it when reading it.
Touch on the history. I think that's even when you go through, any department in a university, they tend to have pictures of graduating classes, and you can see how beards have evolved throughout the ages. But it's always sort of marked me that in the last 20 or so years, beards had really suffered. There has been a dearth of beards, and there is a rebirth now. But I wonder what drove that, and whether you'd see this in the crypt as well, whether there might have been a few generations without beards, and then they corrected this. Although in our world you might say it's the work of some razor conspiracy or something like that. I don't know what it would be if there were generations without beards of the Starks. It would be puzzling.
Yeah, I feel like there might be, as we go along in the story of A Song of Ice and Fire, especially now that the Starks have basically from the first book only went downhill for the whole family tree. I wonder if there will come a time now where people will start shaving in the Stark family, just because to kind of recognize the hard times, and as soon as people start growing again, it'll be as a sign for the new times to come, for the new generations of Starks.
It's like the 21st of December. You've got to hit rock bottom, the shortest day of the year, and then things can get better. And finally, Arya needs to admit she is no one, and Rickon needs to start shaving.
Oh, for sure. I really like this is. I feel like the way we're talking now, this is close to poetry to me. This is, and actually, I think it's something beautiful in making your beard or your lack of beard being a sign of a bigger trend or a bigger events, letting that impact your facial hair.
You could say he's fallen on hard times. He had to shave. Yeah. But you already sort of do that instinctively. You say, look at his beautiful, luscious beard. He's clearly doing well in life, right? Yeah. So you do make that association already.
Yeah, you do. So it's just obvious that the inverse correlation is it's true as well. I mean, you see a clean-shaven man, he probably tries to make a new start for himself in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I
intentional shave.
Yeah, intentional shave. Intentional shave.
Mm.
All right. I have 2 cards here, and it's confusing me because they are both the honorable and the dishonorable mention.
I hear the request is that we have to start with the dishonorable mention.
Definitely, yeah. So
Right.
the dishonorable mention, again, I wanted to keep it to Calm Over Westeros, and I realize now in looking at it that it might even be an intentional draw. He's flung away that dagger and he's clean shaven now. You know, maybe he made the mistake and that's why he has to be stinking drunk. This is the only way he can live with himself now. This might well be an intentional draw. But why pick stinking drunk? There are other cards that don't have beards. What makes this one so dishonorable, so despicable, that it makes me angry that Fantasy Flight Games has printed it? And the real reason, and you guys should have mentioned this last week when Buzz had his honorable and dishonorable mentions, the real reason is that Stinking Drunk existed in first edition, and in first edition it had a beard. So they reprinted the card and took away the beard. I do not know how we can stand for this outrage. Buzz mentioned it last week with Song of Summer, didn't have a beard, but if you look in first edition, it did. We're actually in this dangerous trend where cards are being reprinted without beards.
Oh, yeah. I just hope that this is an unintentional draw. That this is just an oversight. That someone in the art department forgot to compare to previous versions to see, is this a better one than the last one? I mean, obviously, I think FFG is trying to improve the game in every aspect, and that comes to, I mean, gameplay mechanics, theme, flavor, art. But someone probably forgot to check the previous version. I have to play the devil's advocate here and try to find. There must be a valid reason for this. I can't believe someone did this on purpose. Unless they did, you know, they looked at the first edition card and saw this guy is stinking drunk. I mean, the position he's in it's not very flattering, but he still has a great beard. There's a bit of a paradox in here. Why does he have such a great beard and in such a state of shame? Maybe they, for the second edition, tried to, you know, rectify that. They saw that art, they saw the card, they said, well, there's something wrong here. That guy has a great beard, but he's definitely at the bottom of things. We need to make some changes. And maybe, you know, the radical thing to just make a vast improvement is to, you know, shame on this guy. Let's shave him as well. I mean, I'm now playing devil's advocate. I don't.
Well, we could potentially tie this into what we were saying earlier. Maybe as the cycle winds down, they feel like in order to drum up excitement for the next cycle, they have to wind down the number of beards. So they take some of these cards and they took, you know, Song of Summer, and they said, look, it's going to be in the 4th chapter pack. We've got to start winding down the beards so that they can get excited about the beards they're going to see in the next cycle. And maybe we're seeing a continuation of that, you know, so that we have that same feeling of rebirth, of like gaining strength at the beginning of the chapter pack of the next cycle.
I really like that thought, and we all know that Nate French really loves the big effects by the end of the cycles as well as in the beginning of the cycles. We know that from previous episodes of Beyond the Wall, for example, where Nate has spoken about these things, and I hope that we can say the same thing about beards in Thrones, and that is that, like you say, they've probably taking it down a notch for the amount of beards so that we can go out with a bang for the first cycle and then start off the second cycle with great beards.
I think, I mean, we all know that Valor Morghulis is coming back. It has got to have a beard, you know, a card with that impact on the game.
Oh, for sure. I'd be disappointed otherwise.
They can make up the whole no beard in the Valor in first edition with a great beard for the version in the second edition.
Since you all know me for being a renowned casual player, You need to. I have to comment on this. They also forgot the flavor text. Flavor text means a lot to me as a casual player. I mean, how can you play the game without flavor, right?
How do you know who is supposed to be stinking drunk? What have they been drinking? Why don't they have a beard? These are questions that could be answered in flavor text.
Yeah, and that kind of, I mean, I've been
It's
trying
obviously
to play,
not Robert, right?
No, I was just gonna say that I've been trying to play devil's advocate here, but I have to just drop the ball here. I mean, if that's first edition Robert, then second edition, that's not Robert, right?
What's going on with that hair?
That he
He's
doesn't have
thin.
a Warhammer. He lost his Warhammer. He lost his beard. He lost everything.
That's everything. Wow, yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are
This
important
is-
things to casual players like Buzz. It's fun. I don't know, for those
The
of you who
one thing I can't keep a straight face about.
I mean, for those of you who hasn't played Buzz in a casual setting, he also reads the cards out loud, the flavor text, in character as well. So sometimes he has his narrator voice, the movie trailer type of voice, and sometimes
Or the David Attenborough voice. You got to hear that Buzz has his David Attenborough voice.
I'm going to have to hear this. There are a couple. Do you read the flavor text from the point of view of the person in the books? Like if it's Cersei with a woman's voice and
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we get an example, Buzz?
well, the
No,
one I'd really like to hear is Hodor. Can you do Hodor for us? Yes.
That one is reserved for my dear friend John, sadly. And I don't want to intimidate you off of this cast. We must finish the episode, so reserved for later. I'm
Very
afraid. I'm afraid.
Very compassionate.
This is like the day before Christmas. It's frustrating.
But Jacob, you've faced me a lot of times. You know this. You don't need to hear this anyway, right?
Yeah, but the world has to hear it.
The world may not be ready.
That's true. That's true. It's true.
But all of
Awesome.
these stinking drunks people, how can they redeem themselves? Could they do it with a tonic, maybe? Captain Fawcett, tell us about this tonic of the week.
Oh, this is a good one, in my opinion, because now we're at episode 6. I think the first 5 was a bit of a honeymoon for a lot of our listeners. Some of our listeners were unfamiliar with the concept of growing a beard when they started to listen. I know probably a lot of our listeners have found that the quality of their beards have improved vastly. We're going to move on to something that is a bit more advanced, but I think you guys are ready for it now. There's something in art and in design where you talk about negative space, where if you cram something full with content, then people are going to have a hard time appreciating it, or they're going to have a hard time taking it all in. You have to think about the negative space. You have to give things air to let you're working with contrast. So if you want to have a great beard, you can't just let the beard grow wildly. You have to maintain the negative space that enhances your beard. And whether you have a full beard, you go through with goatee or whatever, you have to take care of the negative space in your face usually. And you do that either with a razor, with a shaving knife, something sharp, a sharp object. If you don't have Alex probably shaves with his Warhammer.
It's a learned skill, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So either way, when you've done your shaving, if you want to keep that tight, sharp edge on your beard, you need to take care of the skin. And the tonic for this week is Bay Rum Afterbath. This one is from Suavecito, South Carolina. Shout out to Ryan and the guys there. They probably know a lot about these products already. This one
you might be confusing Carolina and California.
Did I say South Carolina?
Yeah,
Yes.
you did.
I mean Southern California, obviously.
Oh.
Santa Ana, California. Sorry, guys. I was. That was a close call. Thanks for correcting me. So obviously this is Southern California. I almost did it again. Anyway.
Did you blend that the rum with your actual rum?
I was just gonna say you can either use it as an aftershave rum or you can just use it as a rum. The way I'm using it, you can probably guess. But anyway, this is a very good one, and it's actually a bonus point because as we move into the Swedish lesson, this is a very Scandinavian and Swedish flavored podcast, and so is this bay rum. It smells very much like Swedish glögg.
Glögg. Okay.
Glögg, yes.
I've actually
It's like
had
mulled wine.
Yes.
Yeah, mulled wine. It smells a lot of
Whatever it's called in English.
Whatever it's called, Christmas spices.
So did you choose this because I chose stinking drunk? You want to smell of a little bit of rum. You want to come home, even if you haven't had a drink. You want your wife to say, "This man could have had a drink."
Yeah, he could have had, potentially.
or just when you come home, it's like, oh, it's my husband coming home.
Yeah, that's.
The smells of glögg. That's him.
Yeah. So yeah, this is nice. I mean, I'm very sad that you can't, that you don't feel the smell, like I do right now. It's very.
We're
good.
gonna have to ship one to Alex.
Yeah.
Before you move on from glögg, I have had glögg at a couple of Christmas parties where someone who'd actually lived in Sweden for quite a while had made it. My initial understanding was that it was a mulled wine, that it was with a wine base, but he made it with much stronger alcohols than wine. Wine was not the main base of that. What is the most common ingredients aside from the spices and the like?
I think you do it with, and you guys are gonna have to.
You do it with spiced wine normally, don't you?
Mm-hmm. That's probably the old way of doing it. I think right now, I mean, these days you can get glögg with all kinds of different tastes, but I think the base is still red wine. I think, and then.
But I think you can do it with what is it called?
Sprit.
Brännvin.
Yes.
Brandy?
No.
No. Does it have an English word?
I have no idea. I have.
You don't know the word.
1 second.
I could look it up in the rules reference.
Yeah,
Called,
please do it.
No, it's actually a Swedish. Yeah, it's called brännvin. It's a Swedish thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called
brännvin. You could translate it to brandy. I think that's the closest thing you get in
It's
English.
a fortified wine, so it's a higher alcohol concentration, either from redistilling or putting sugars back in like they do for port.
But
I think it's usually somewhere between 30 to 40%.
Okay, yeah.
And it's distilled. I have no idea really.
Grain,
but,
but more like vodka than wine.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think there's nowadays there might not be this is how you do glögg, but you can do it both from brännvin and from just spiced regular wine.
But I mean, the wine version is the one you buy for Christmas usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, an important part is, of course, the spice mix, which I guess you can do a little bit whatever you like. But I think ginger is one part, and if I got the translation correct, gillyflower. Is that correct?
It may be correct. Yeah, I mean, I've only made glühwein myself, only the poor German offshoot rather than the proper Swedish form. So I'm not familiar with the spices that go into the Swedish.
No,
and then you usually put raisins and almonds in.
Yeah.
For serving.
Yep, for serving.
Right.
So that was a bit of a.
Yeah, you could probably do a glögg on the bay rum. I haven't tried. I have to do that. It's a bit
to be festive, the holiday season. Yes.
Yeah, you could probably just
eat Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, you can smell like Christmas all day round or year round. I mean, all day and all year. So this is the tonic of the week.
That was a good warm up for our Swedish lessons, which is. This episode, it's what is it? Hynes. It's hard to define sometimes, I think.
I've used this word on our cast as well. I'm actually going to start with a really quick English question for you guys, which has nothing to do with it. But if you guys get to do a Swedish lesson, I get to do an English one. Are you familiar with if I said I brought him along as my beard? Do you know what that means?
Of course, yes.
You're familiar with that context.
We've
Maybe not all of
it
your...
on the casts.
Okay, all right. Well, then you don't need this lesson at all. We're fine. So we'll move on to the Swedish one, and I think we'll start by asking each of you to name who has the best beard on this cast. So Buzz, will you tell me who has the best beard on this cast?
Samuel, done.
Okay. Samuel, who has the best beard on this cast?
I would say it's a tie between Andreas and Jakob.
Okay. And Jakob, who has the best beard on this cast?
At first I was going to say Samuel, but I think Andreas has very, very fine lines. So I think it's a very, very... It's a tie.
Right. So there are two things I noticed about that. One, nobody named me. So...
Oh, when you said cast, I thought maybe you were referring to the panel itself. Obviously, I would say that our guest has a very, very fine beard.
But secondly, of course, none of you seem to be willing to take credit for having the best beard, even though one of you clearly does have the best beard. So this is, I'm told, a part of Swedish culture called Jantelagen, and I may be mispronouncing it slightly because I know that other Scandinavian countries also use the term to describe the Swedish one, but have slightly different pronunciations for it. So maybe they should get your pronunciation first.
You were close.
Yeah, you were close. It's Jantelagen. So very, very. I think you almost nailed it. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that it's almost exactly the opposite of American exceptionalism?
Yes.
Probably yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as I understand it, is this notion that it is even if you are better, and I'm not sure if you're allowed to be better than anybody else. That I don't even know either. But even if you are, it would be very rude and very, very impolite to show it or to show off or to let anyone else know that you were more successful than they were. In any way, even if you're the one who scores the goal for a winning World Cup match, it would still be considered rude to, show off.
Yes.
Well, I think you definitely hits on something there, because especially in sports, that's something you would very rarely see even a superstar say anything else than, "Oh, it was all because of the team. I didn't do anything. I just did my job, and the team did exceptionally well."
I think sometimes Jantelagen is defined as don't think that you're better than anyone else. That's actually I don't know if it's the definition of it, but that's sort of the core of it, the mentality that it kind of imposes on people that do not think that you're better than anyone else, because you're not. So, and
I think that's
it's a huge part of our culture.
Yeah,
I think we're moving away from it a little bit, but it's still. I think most Swedes would identify very much with that.
It's something we breathe every day.
Yes,
it's.
Well, I think
even
it has
though...
a very egalitarian mindset to it. To say, okay, maybe this person's down on their luck or something is bad for them, but that doesn't make me better than them, and I shouldn't rub it in any way either. There's that politeness aspect, but this acknowledgement that everyone's capable of these things, and that just because you happen to have achieved them doesn't make you a better person. But I've also heard people say, oh, it's harder to do startups and things like that in Sweden because people aren't willing to take that big leap and say, look, why should I can do this that nobody else has been able to do? That sometimes people are a little bit held back by that, for instance.
It definitely helps our team building efforts when the whole team aims at a goal. It definitely helps that, because it brings the team together, the whole Jantelagen. But it's also something that could be very negative, like you said, Samuel. That it kind of, the definition is, you shouldn't think that you're better than anyone else, and that can actually be outspoken by people. So whenever someone is better than anyone else, other
They get
people around
dragged
them
down.
can
Yeah.
definitely drag them down by saying, or just by not acknowledging their success. Just being silent is something that's very Swedish as well. So if someone is doing very well, other people in their surrounding areas of that in that situation can just be quiet and in that way drag them down.
Now, Buzz did mention before we started recording that there's an interesting perspective here. Not anyone here, obviously, but apparently it's internal. So within Sweden, it would be very, very rude. But for a Swedish person to, for instance, say they were better than an American, that would be a little less bad.
A little less bad. I mean, that would be a fact, right?
The proof is in the pudding. There we go.
It should be noted that Buzz doesn't really represent Sweden in this
What?
area.
Really?
For the people who don't really understand what I'm saying right now, you can head over to the Facebook group and watch it. Whatever Andreas is writing on that group.
It's not Jantelagen.
It's not
No,
Jantelagen.
no.
It doesn't come through at all.
But in the Swedish groups, which you're free to join and translate with Google Translate, you will find me in a different mood altogether.
Soon they won't need Google Translate. A few more episodes of Beard of Westeros, and they'll have the words for the equivalent of a midnight snack. We've talked about mulled wine. We've talked about everything. It's covered.
Yeah.
Everything that you need to know.
All you need
Totally.
to know. Alcohol and Jantelagen.
Welcome to Sweden.
Alcohol at ridiculous prices, I will have you know.
Well,
Yes.
we earn a lot of money, so it's fine.
That wasn't Jantelagen at all.
What are you talking about?
But I mean, compared to Americans, that is. I mean,
Oh, dear.
anyway.
Oh wow.
Speaking to a Canadian man here, you're free to speak.
All right. True.
I can hide behind many different nationalities.
All
If
right.
Canada starts to get hammered in the press for some horrible thing we do, which will never happen because nobody pays attention anyway, then I can pretend that I'm more British than I am American, or more Belgian than I am British. So I'm unless all three of those countries go to shit at the same time, I should be fairly safe.
I have a life goal, and that is that I have to prove that you are a little bit Swedish, at least. I haven't found anything on you yet, and I'm not stalking you enough.
You're working on it?
I'm working on it.
A little bit Swedish. I did apply for a job at Uppsala.
Oh, you did?
I did. I did not make the short list, so I will not be a little bit Swedish. Not this year, anyway.
Anyway, it's soon time to go, but we have a surprise viewer submission this week.
Hello, this is Ryan from Stockholm, and I've got another favorite Beard of Westeros suggestion today. And this one is a non-unique beard, so it could be any number of beards or any number of not beards. We don't really know, because this is the Hedge Knight. And if you can see the Hedge Knight, he's fully dressed in plate mail and can't see his face or if he has a beard or not. So this is actually an example of a famous Westeros style of beard called a Schrodinger beard. You never know if a Hedge Knight has a beard or not until you cut his head off, and then you inspect the beard. You can see it through the blood and so forth from the severed head, and then you can see. But however, until you do that, he both has a beard and does not have a beard. Oh, and I would say actually that I guess that he does have a beard, because otherwise he might be wearing chainmail, and as I can attest, chainmail tends to catch in your beard, and it's just, you're always going to be like, ow, ow, you know, pulling your hairs out, and who wants that? So that's one of the main reasons why people wore plate mail and these full helmets, because it didn't catch in their beards as often. And if you can see the hedge. Hello, this is Ryan from Stockholm, and I've got another favorite beard of Westeros suggestion today. And this one is a non-unique beard, so it could be any number of beards or any number of not beards. We don't really know, because this is the Hedge Knight. And if you can see the Hedge Knight, he's fully dressed in plate mail and can't see his face or if he has a beard or not. So this is actually an example of a famous Westeros style of beard called the Schrodinger beard. You never know if a hedge knight has a beard or not until you cut his head off, and then you inspect the beard and see if it has. Then you can see. But however, until you do that, he both has a beard and does not have a beard. Oh, and I would say actually that I guess that he does have a beard because otherwise he might be wearing chainmail, and as I can attest, chainmail tends to catch in your beard, and just you're always going to be like, ow, ow, pulling your hairs out. And who wants that? So that's one of the main reasons why people wore plate mail in their
Oh.
All right.
How you had me on the episode where you're going to show this. I've been completely and 100% upshown. None of this episode we just recorded matters in the face of this. I think he's just won the beard.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
That is Ryan,
That is
our
amazing.
new American recruit for Team Sweden. He lives in Stockholm with us, and he's training to become a Jacob.
Oh, that's Jantelagen. Oh, that's Jantelagen. I love it. I found it in you, Buzz.
What?
He's not becoming a new you.
Me?
You're the new champion.
Oh, it's my new champion. Yes, who I can revere and fawn over.
Well, I think this Ryan has really hit the nail on the head. I think this is a superb example of Game of Thrones at its best. It incorporates the violence inherent in the game, the necessity for beards, and the fact that we as players can have a say in how good a card is, evaluate the card, and establish some facts about its beard based on how good the card is. Because Hedge Knight's a great card, so it must have a great beard.
That's true.
That is true.
Also good. Okay, guys. I think it's time to wrap this one up. A huge thank you to Alex. So good to have you on. Thanks for your contribution. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and knowledge about the Melee game and table talks, and your insight in general about these great cards you've shown us. So thanks. We're big fans of you.
Thank you for having us. We have a problem on our own podcast that we'll be talking about this week that would be solved with more beard. It's not being facetious. More beard would solve this problem. So if you happen to have a beard, please listen to our next episode and see if you can help us out.
I can't wait.
That's awesome. Tune in to Beyond the Wall this week.
Oh, the people who are listening to Great Beards of Westeros and haven't listened to Beyond the Wall. What's up, guys? What are you doing? Priorities, guys.
Just leave now. Well,
Just
no,
that's
leave 30 minutes ago, please.
John has no beard whatsoever. I have this. We have no video. I mean, and we didn't win anything last year. So, honestly, I can see why we're passé. We're a thing of the past.
Well, keep producing great content, and I think people will. A lack of great beard can be compensated by great content, great success. So
and a
great Warhammer, obviously. You have the Warhammer. It's always going to trump basically everything. Awesome. So we have a special sign-off that we use on this show that we're going to use this week as well. And this goes out to you, all our listeners. Remember to wax your tips and tip your waitresses. Thanks, guys.